So this show is basically Archer. You know, Archer had the crew. It was pretty edgy in terms of violence, nudity, and language. This one does that, and drugs also. It's Netflix and Sony Animation, but the visual style is from Robert Valley. Robert Valley is the one who did Zima Blue and Love, Death and Robots, which was one of my favorite episodes. I actually came into this show because of that art style. Everything in this story, the best way to describe this particular world is, it's Elvis, and then the world is all the stories, because each episode has its own independent story. This is the overarching story, but each episode feels independent. It feels clean. Yes, there are other storylines that may jump from one episode into the other, but generally each story is independent. So you'll have each episode influenced by the events during that particular period, and you'll have some characters, some figures, historic figures popping in, exaggerated of course. You'll have some events popping in, exaggerated of course. So it will give you a feel of, if you remember Black Dynamite, what they did with the story and taking some pop culture or historical events and blending them into the story, but giving it its own wacky, edgy approach. So this is that. Now, in terms of the characters, I had Elvis. Okay, let's talk about the good. The characters are very well designed. The female agent for me was my favorite because she had a personality. You could actually tell the kind of person that she was, and she was enjoyable to watch. And she could say anything, whatever was coming out of her mouth was pretty random. There's a chimp who's addicted to coke and marijuana and careless, loves spending whatever. The chimp doesn't talk, but he is just a crazy chimp, violent, loves shooting people, blowing people's head off with a revolver, that kind of crazy chimp. Now, that chimp had more personality than the character of Elvis himself. I struggled a lot with this main character, and I think the only time that he became interesting was when he was surrounded by all these other characters. Apart from PTSD, I actually never really got PTSD and the music and the fact that he was famous. Apart from that, there was not really anything else about that particular character that could actually make you either like him or stick with him. Whenever he was alone, if it wasn't PTSD, he was just kind of, chilled out, and like all surrounded by two very exaggerated characters and one character that I don't know what the character was doing. There's one main character who's just there. He's just a part of the clique, but you don't know what. Yes, he comes in every once in a while to save them, but generally he's just there. And there's another female black character, and you're like, what's her role in all this? Yes, it makes sense to have her there. Yes, it makes sense in the story, but generally, like for the first 5 episodes, you keep asking yourself, what's her role in this? So if you're going into this, what might you find enjoyable? One is the creativity that goes into how they choose to tell their stories, especially the action set pieces, because they use panels. They use like super wide panels to jump into an action scene, or very interesting transitions and very interesting style when it comes to some action set pieces, like a kung fu, like a karate chop. They will do it in such a way that it's exaggerated and exhilarating in terms of how they approach it from an artistic point of view. They don't approach fight scenes the way animations approach their art, their fight scenes. So that's one of the things that I liked. The style, as I said, it's very, very cool, except for the fact that the background is rendered different from the characters themselves. When you look at the backgrounds are very well rendered. That's the effect of light or on objects and how the shadow falls. It's very, very elaborate, very, very clean, very, very good looking. But when you come to the characters, they use a lot of flat colors. You can only see a block of black where there is a shadow, but even the face lacks a lot of structures and a lot of character in terms of just the relationship between light and shadow. So it makes for very flat looking characters. But I understand that because it's animation and it's actually really difficult to actually do this for a lot of episodes, for a TV show, let alone. So yeah, I understand that, but you can actually, when you're watching, sometimes you can feel the difference between the background and the characters. You can see the background layer and you can see the character layer because of just that one small difference. But generally, this is a very enjoyable show. It's very fast paced. It's very violent. There's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of nudity, and of course, it's on Netflix. So you need the leader of the team. It's called TCB. And actually, here's the thing about the show. If for the first 2 episodes you may struggle to get into it, but just wait up to episode 5, because when you get to episode 5, that's when Elvis now joins the agent, and then you're given an idea of what TCB is. And when I talk about the world and how interesting it is, there's a way that they're able to mix modern technology with technologies of the 60s, and they do very, very creative things with it. And you, if you're into tech, you may actually start laughing at some points because of whatever is happening in the background with the tech. Because remember, this is the 60s and 70s, so the tech is not as advanced as ours. But then they find a way of bridging that gap between the two worlds. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Elvis, Agent Elvis is a show for you if you love edgy animations. It's a show for you if you loved Archer. You can comfortably call it the Netflix version of Archer, but with a famous figure. Now, for the voice actors, you have Michael McConaughey, you have Don Cheadle, you have Caitlin from It's Always Sunny. So you have all these particular voices, but with time, maybe after episode 2, you tend to forget that they are that. You can recognize the voices, but they get you into the story so much that you actually forget that this is them. This is these particular actors. Matthew McConaughey is actually really good. I actually enjoyed it. I forgot, which is the most important part, I forgot that he's the one who was voicing Elvis. So this is a fantastic show. If you love action, if you love explosion, if you love animation, this is the show for you, and it's on Netflix. Expect diversity, expect body positivities in episode 4, expect LGBTQ references in a few scenes, especially with Don Cheadle's character, the commander. Apart from that, yeah, that's basically it. This is a good show. It's worth your time, and it's not there to be taken seriously. You'll probably enjoy the world a lot, and you'll enjoy the action set pieces, which are bloody and violent. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.